Do you have a record of like everyone you've like done things with?
No, I used to like in college and then grew more as a person and realized that was like a patriarchal standard designed to oppress women so that they like don't have knowledge or control of their own sexuality and therefore men can be bad at sex and get away with it.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Beducated is the masterclass for all things sex. Get better in bed and feel more confident by clicking the link at the top of the show notes or use promo code manwhore at beducated.com. It's like educated, but with a B at the front so you know how to tickle the B on the back. When your mission is beyond missionary, step up your game with Liberator. Their collection of transformable sex furniture and sex toy mounts will put you in sexual positions you never thought were possible. Use promo code MANWHORE and save 40% off the best-selling Wedge Ramp combo at Liberator.com.
Welcome to the Man-Whore Podcast.
Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Sonny. You want to say something? Yeah. She's a little shy because she's a dog. You want to do the thing? Let's do the thing. What's up to all the busty bimbos, the well-hung himbos, the smart sluts, and the shrewd prudes? This is Billy Procida, and you're listening to the Man-Whore Podcast. What's up? Welcome to the show if you're new. Welcome back if you're not. I am coming to you from a very high up floor in a very nice building in Greenpoint. Watching my sister's doggo, which means I get to stay in her very, very swanky pad. A pad so nice it's making me think, what do I got to do with my life to get into one of these places? I might finally be getting tired of living in shittily renovated apartments in Bushwick. I don't know. Maybe I want to strive for more in my late 30s. Maybe I won't do the second half broke. I don't know. What's up? If you are new to the show, this is a podcast that I started 9 years ago interviewing women I hooked up with about sex, dating, and why we didn't work out. And we've been returning to that format recently, following up to my very deep, lovey-dovey conversation with Elle. This week I've got Lee. And like last week, we're talking about love and loss, but from a different angle. Look forward to sharing her with y'all in just a little bit. But first, as Chris Rock taught me at the age of 11, there is no sex in the champagne room. None. But there is sometimes sex in a Senate committee hearing room, apparently. I don't know if you heard about this one. If you're a Savage Lovecast listener, I'm sorry that you're hearing it twice. Dan beat me to it. He's a Tuesday show. I'm a Wednesday show. He got first dibs, but I gotta at least comment. So over the weekend, a Senate staffer, an aide, he was fired because a sex tape was released of him getting fucked in a Senate committee here, where they do the things you watch on C-SPAN, where you just watch senators who are supposed to be asking questions, but they don't really ask a question. They just rant for 2 minutes. And then the witness kind of tries to guess what the question was supposed to be. Yeah, those rooms. Yeah, it's him getting fucked in one of those rooms. And it was a video that probably was not supposed to be widely shared, yet it of course was widely shared. Then that got into some big right-wing website. And some senator from Maryland none of us have ever heard of, had to take some action. But yeah, so I don't even think it was being sold for an OnlyFans. I think this was purely for fun. And I am a big fan of sex in public and slightly risky locations. I mean, I'm all about that. I think New York City is just one big public sex playground. I mean, truly, this is a great city for public sex, so long as you don't have sex near an actual playground or school. Because then what's the worst that's going to happen? If somebody sees you, you just leave. Unless it was the cops who saw you, you just go. Because, like, if you get caught by the cops, like, back home in your hometown, like, even if you get away, they know who you were. They know your mother. They can just, like, you can leave and they will show up the next day and knock on your parents' door and go, like, we saw Steven and Jennifer doing it down by the dumpsters outside the Applebee's. And just, it's just not an appropriate place. Kids eat there for free from 4 to 8 on weekdays. So it's just not appropriate. No, here in New York City, you just go. You just leave. Fuck, I have had sex in an NYPD parking lot, and it was fine. But something I do want to point out, I do want to point this out, is that when you see the news about this, when you see people talking about it, take notice of who puts an emphasis on the fact that it was a gay sex tape. That they were having gay sex. I didn't even really say it until now, did I? Technically, when I was like, he was getting fucked. I don't know, maybe it was his girlfriend fucking him with a strap on. No. It was another man fella topping a twink. But take notice who emphasizes the gay part of the gay sex tape. The ones who are clearly trying to make you have some sort of extra reaction to the fact that it was a type of sex that maybe you don't have. A type of sex that Ken Paxton in Texas, the Attorney General, is still trying to outlaw again. A type of sex that was illegal in like many parts of this country. 21 years ago, you could be arrested for having gay sex anywhere in like the privacy of your own home. And in theory, you could get arrested for heterosexual blowjobs too, in the privacy of your own home. Y'all should fucking start paying attention to this shit. Because again, the gay sex, it's not really relevant what type of sex was being had. It would only be relevant if, like, say, heterosexual sex was allowed in the Senate hearing room. Because then it'd be like, there's a sex tape came out. Someone was fucking in the Senate hearing room, and they'd be like, well, I think you're allowed to fuck in that place. And then you'd be like, oh no, it was gay sex. Be like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to do that. No, no sex is allowed in that room. So the gay part's irrelevant. I don't know. If you hear about this, if people are talking about it, and maybe push back when a friend tries to clearly sensationalize that part of the scandal. You can simply say, oh, that's interesting. Why is the gay part relevant? Oh, I mean, it's not relevant. Okay, then why say it? Why not just say sex tape? If Lauren Boebert got caught doing a hand job, not at the Beetlejuice musical, but in that same place, you wouldn't say that like a straight sex tape got. No, you just say sex tape. You could just say sex tape. You can make your friend feel foolish. And embarrassment seems to be a great motivator to get people to change behavior. However, I also will call bullshit on the aide, because the aide put out this statement, be like, I'm being persecuted for who I love, and this is a really tough time. It's like, nah, bitch. Again, Dan Savage beat me to it, said this yesterday, but you got caught fucking where you weren't supposed to, and for some reason you made a fucking tape of it. No, don't hide behind, I'm being persecuted. You're not being persecuted right now. Anyways, I hope this Senate aide gets a future career on OnlyFans or somewhere, because I've heard good things about the tape. I'll have a link to the news story on that one that doesn't have gay sex in the headline below. On the topic of hiding behind the thing, going like, but I'm being persecuted for who I love. And when really it's, no, you fucked in the Senate chamber, you legend. And the video got out. No, I follow a couple of incel accounts, one, maybe two, like big incel accounts, because I want to keep my eye on what the fuck they're talking about. The incel world, the MRA world, like all this, like men who aren't getting laid and are angry about it, that space. And I have this odd empathy for it, because I could have, and on paper maybe should have, become one of them. I truly believe that I must have been just a Google search term away from ending up in a men's right activist or a red pill subreddit instead of Scarlet Teen or Dan Savage, right? And I think those dudes were like a keyword SEO thing away from not ending up in those spaces. and finding like healthier outlets for their frustration or their insecurities and all that. So I follow a big incel account on Twitter, and I still call it Twitter because I only dead name tech companies. And, you know, this account, like, it quote tweeted, "Almost no bald men look good." And I found that a strange assertion to make because I've heard a lot of women talk about fucking bald leather daddies that they find very, very sexy. I see bald men at Hacienda dicking it down. I've heard it. I've seen it. It's real. And I have my Italian American thin hair on the top of my head, and I have done historically quite well for myself. So I think it's a weird assertion to say for really anything. Oh, men, women can't be hot if they are blank physical attribute. I think it's bullshit, right? And with incels, I find that they're always looking for an excuse to not be desirable. And I think then they take that frustration out on women, as we've seen with a lot of these mass shooters and all that. So, you know, I push back a little bit, call some bullshit, but, you know, I always try to come to the table in some good faith and not yell at them, but rather go like, "Oh, that's interesting. I've heard this instead," or "My experience has been this." I think it's just far more productive if you think dudes don't look attractive bald than just say you don't think dudes look attractive bald. But this is a straight guy who's posting this, so I know it's not that angle. You're instead trying to make this like statement, and you're not providing any data to back it up. So then, you know, I get the pushback, and so I just bring out, there was a study done that at least like insinuates that a balding man is less attractive to heterosexual women, but that bald men and men with full heads of hair are both considered very attractive. Like, so the baldingness, right? The receding hairline situation. But then again, that same morning I woke up and saw on Twitter a woman tweeting, like, it was a picture of Jason Statham with the receding hairline with some hair on his head, and talking about how, look, here's an example of a sexy man who owns that he is balding and owns his receding hairline and doesn't give a fuck. And he's like, all right, I'm still hot. At the core of all of it, it's just like, be confident. But, you know, when I respond to that to these incels, they just refuse to fucking believe it. Because again, I think there's a victim mentality that they're so goddamn comfortable in. Oh, well, chicks aren't into dudes who are fat. Chicks aren't into dudes with a small dick, even though their dick is probably very average. Chicks aren't into bald guys. None of it's true. None of it's true. I'm a chubby dude with a just above average dick with a bald spot. My teeth aren't completely straight. And like, and love handles, and I'm, you know, like I do this show because I was very successfully slutty in this body. Oh, well, you're confident. You think I always was? I brought this up, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago in response to that dude's email, but it's again like, man, you got to just like find that confidence. You got to fake it and not feel sorry for yourself in this dating world. Plenty of people will be there to emotionally support you through it, but they are not going to fuck you through it. It's why I had so many girlfriends who were like, oh, you're fine somebody, you're attractive, you're a good guy, I'm not going to bang you, but, you know, somebody should. It was when I started acting like I was a hot dude, and I didn't use that as an excuse to act like an asshole. I just was acting like I was hot. That's when people wanted to fuck me. So, before I get to my guest this week, Lee, let's do a quick fan whore appreciation moment before the batteries run out on this thing. This is the part of the podcast where I like to give a shout out to members of my fan whore community on Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support independent content creators, hopefully myself, but if you enjoy other YouTubers, TikTokers, podcasters, writers, designers, I mean, if they have a Patreon, you have no idea how much it means to them, even if it's just $2 a month. It doesn't take a lot for you to do your part in keeping indie content indie. Y'all remember when I did Glass? I was at part of that network. You had all those commercials. Yeah. Patreon is what allows me to not have to do that. Anyways, I want to give a shout out. I want to give a big thank you right now to Hal of Tracy and Hal fame. Welcome to the community, dude. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself in the champagne room, in the peep show. Thank you for all the kind gifts that you two have been sending down south to me. And I'm glad you're here, Boris. And I want to give a shout out to someone who named himself I Got Some Paperwork. And his avatar is a sign that disallows murder. That's all I got. Well, dude, thanks for supporting the podcast. Thanks for being anti-murder. Appreciate you. And you too can become a member, support the pod, and receive a slew of great rewards, bonus content, community access. Membership begins at just $2 a month, and you can join today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Lee is on the podcast this week. We hooked up, I'm guessing, sometime in 2019, as I was already in a certain apartment, but I was also smoking weed regularly at that point. So I'm clocking it at 2019. We both have been members of the Hacienda community. That's where I've seen the most of her. I think that's also where I met her, and she has her own tale of love and loss. Last week with Elle, we talked about love and loss in terms of breakups, and this week we're talking about it in terms of death. And when someone you love unalives themselves. So, not enough really occurred between us to ask, like, why didn't we work out? But I think you can hear between the chemistry we have on this microphone, that answers. That's, come on now. Last week, though, you're all like, Elle and Billy should get back together. This one, I think everyone can agree, Lee included, yeah, one oral sex session's probably enough. But for now, let's go chat with Lee. A couple of weekends ago, I went to Hacienda. Ooh, it was like the holiday triple Xmas party. No big deal. And I was playing with somebody. Ooh, yes, scandalous. I know, Billy, sexually active. And, you know, when we were done fooling around and I had, given her a nice big orgasm in front of everybody, we were just kind of laying around on the mattresses, making out, feeling each other's bodies, and I'm kind of scanning the room, and I see to my right a friend of mine having a nice big orgasm of her own. Her date was fingering her on Liberator's S Lounger. Yes, my sponsor this week is Liberator, the company that is making sex more comfortable, more enjoyable, and longer lasting. And most people in the scene equate Liberator with their epic, infamous sex furniture, but they do more than just that. When it comes to bondage, they've got you covered with 2 collections that are out right now. The Black Label, featuring attached restraints, and their brand new Valkyrie Edition line with removable Velcro cuff fasteners for custom bondage. No matter how you like to play, the possibilities with Liberator are limitless. And Liberator is offering Fanhorn... Oh, I said the name of that product wrong earlier. It was the S Love Lounger. That's ESSE. S Love Lounger. It's a great one. Hacienda's got one. I've seen other play party communities have one. It's like a great, and it's like kind of a classy piece of furniture. You can like put it in your living room, and your uncle could be sitting on it being like, this is great for my lower back support. And you're just giggling to yourself because you just wiped it down the night before. Now, Liberator is offering Fanhorn Nation a very special deal. You can get 40% off their best-selling Wedge Ramp combo with over 1 million satisfied customers. Click the link in the schnotes and use promo code MANWHORE for 40% off their site. And while you're browsing around Liberator.com, check out more of their bondage gear. And all of Liberator's products, mind you, are made right here in the USA. One more time, visit Liberator.com, and we thank them for supporting the show. The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by Beducated.com. Beducated brings pleasure-based sex education right to your bedroom with over 100 online courses from the world's top experts and educators. Actually, when you first go to the website, they have like this like 9-box square of like different videos playing all at once. So I'm just going to describe some of them to you. The first one is a woman on her bed on her own. I think it's a solo pleasure course. The second one is a sensual massage course. Third one is 2 chicks tying each other up, because we all should learn how to do the ropes. Another one is clearly how to give a lap dance. Another one is how to play with sex toys. There's something here that has something to do with yonis and yoga and something woo-woo. This one in the middle is just like a man and a woman, and they're in a bed, and I don't know what that course is about. But Beducated has a ton of courses that help couples connect better with their clothes off. We got one on the bottom where she's holding, I think it's some kind of fruit. So I don't know what metaphor that is, but let's just pretend it's about pussy eating. And then this final video on the bottom right is, I shit you not, is a man and I think a woman, and they are kneeling face to face with their hands on their own thighs, looking into each other's eyes. And they're sitting in the middle of a circle of rose petals and candles. So a little more woo-woo, a little more emphasis on the connection of a couple so they can help each other come, or they're going to do a blood sacrifice. I'm not sure if they have a course on that, but who knows? Beducated's library is so vast and diverse, I might not be surprised. So Beducated is offering Fan Whore Nation a very special discount, 50% off an annual membership when you use promo code MANWHORE at checkout or click the link at the top of the schnotes. I know that sounds a little dirty. Click the link at the top of my schnotes. It just means show notes if you're new here. Beducated.com. It's spelled like educated, but with a B in the front, because then it spells bed. And this is about stuff you do ostensibly in a bed or a circle of rose petals and candles. Beducated.com. I went up to you. You were at the bar, and then I was like, "Hey, I was looking at my records. Did I go down on you? Like it's like pre-COVID sometime?"
And I don't remember.
Do you remember? But do you remember this exchange?
No, I remember that conversation, but I don't remember the experience.
Neither do I.
But I like vaguely remember that we were neighbors and we ran into each other at Father's.
Yeah,
and I think I was pissed off about something, and so I was like, "We know each other," and then we had a lot of sangria.
Did we?
Yes. We had a lot of sangria and a joint.
The joint sounds like it tracks. I don't remember any of that stuff. You clearly remember more than me. I remember
running into you at the bar. At
Father's.
At Father's.
Yeah.
And then being like, we know each other.
I don't remember. I just have a notepad that says Lee and 3G, which means I gave oral. And that I did not receive it back. No, and that's all I know. That's all I got. So I was like,
also tracks.
Do you not give head?
My mouth is really small.
Now, see that for some reason I have some sort of affectional memory too. Like, I feel like I have heard your mouth is really small. Maybe that is. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Neither of us remember this hookup. You apparently remember like how it began, I guess. But yeah, so that was, I don't think I've really had. I
assume that's the same experience because that tracks.
Yeah, we haven't like hung out a lot or anything. I even went as far as like this morning, like, or on my way over here, I was scrolling all the way up to the top of our text to see like, well, what's the beginning of that? But that only goes to like February 2020. So then I went to like Facebook Messenger and I scrolled up top of that. That also only went up to like 2020. And then I'm like, I went to our IG messages and I scrolled to the top of that, and that's like 2021. I'm like, how the fuck did we arrange? So the fact that we ran into each other at Father's, I guess, has to be it, because it's not like I texted you up.
Yeah.
Look,
I also don't think that I knew we lived next to each other.
I'm a big old hoe, and I've just really never had this happen.
I'm a mystery.
Have you like forgotten like people you've hooked up with in some capacity, and then you find yourself in a situation where they're like, did we?
I definitely at one point had a threesome with some guy and his girlfriend.
Okay.
And I don't remember what his name was because it was really bad.
Wait, the name was really bad, or the threesome was bad?
The threesome was really bad, but I was completely sober, so it's not like, oh, I was drinking and it was like I forgot, but it was just I blocked that out.
It's not like when you used my mouth, like you got me drunk and high, and then you used my face. It's like you were sober for the threesome.
Completely sober. It was just a bad time.
Okay. I do like the idea of like it being a really good threesome, but the name is so bad you couldn't remember it.
No, it was a really generic name.
Oh, okay.
Which also doesn't help, but it was just not a good experience.
All right. Well, Lee, hello. I want to pretend like we just started talking, but we have been talking for like an hour, I think, before we picked the mics up. So welcome.
Thank you.
To the show where I talk to people I've hooked up with, whether or not we remember.
I feel like that does track, though.
This awkward tone is like exactly why I got into doing this show. Do you have a record of like everyone you've like done things with?
No, I used to like in college, and then grew more as a person and realized that was like a patriarchal standard designed to oppress women so that they like don't have knowledge or control of their own sexuality, and therefore men can be bad at sex and get away with it.
Meanwhile, I thought I was just making it a lot easier when I go get an STI test and they ask like, how many partners have you had? And I'd be like, well, I had this many oral partners. I had this many vaginal penetration partners. I was able to give a nice complete answer.
I'm also not as much of a hoe as I could be.
No? Okay. And why is that?
I just don't feel like it.
Hey,
I'm picky.
I'm kind of like, how dare you not be a slut?
I'm picky.
What's funny is in this world, you know, if you were being a slut, then they'd be like, why are you a slut? You can't win.
Exactly.
No winning allowed. Except for this condo.
True.
Yes. This is what a dead fiance gets you.
Exactly.
I got her laugh at it twice. Yeah. How'd you first start going to that place that we both at times have been to?
I worked in nightlife.
Okay.
And because I worked in nightlife, a lot of the places that I worked were burners. And a lot of the burners are also in that scene. And so it just kind of naturally started going there because we would want to hang out when I wasn't working.
But they would say like, hey, you want to go to this sex party? Or like, because there are bars. You could just go hang out at.
I did get invited to one because at the time that I first got invited, it was because one of my friends who had been going there for a while, her boyfriend really wanted to bang.
You?
Yes.
Oh.
And she was like, you should come to this thing. And I think she just asked to like test the vibe.
Like your vibe.
On if I would maybe want to bang her boyfriend.
Right. Like, let's like get her into the sex party and then like see, you know, she's sounding horny. Oh my God, I have a dick
Like,
you can
oh my
use
God,
right here.
my boyfriend is here.
How convenient.
He has a really big dick.
Oh, and then you're like, I have such a small mouth. Oh no.
Yeah.
I have a really small mouth. A huge cunt. But no, it's kidding. I don't know. I can't remember. You got me drunk and high.
I didn't get you drunk and high. It was your joint.
It was my joint?
Yes. You got me high.
Oh my gosh. You remember again far more than I do. Love that.
Well, I freeloaded all my joints from people until like 2 years ago.
Okay. So you went to this play party and then like, what was as someone who had not been to one, like what was your first impression of people fucking?
I knew what kind of party it was. Like she didn't just like lie to get me in there.
Yeah, but like
she straight up was like, it's a sex party.
Absolutely. But like there's gotta be like a reaction the first time you actually see that in person.
I was kind of just like, this is an interesting place, but I had liked the idea of like sex positivity in terms of being like open about that stuff. Because I grew up religious, so we never like had sex ed or anything. So we were just taught that like women aren't supposed to like or want sex. But then if your husband or boyfriend wants it, you can't say no.
Right.
And you can't ask either because you're not supposed to like it or want it anyway. It's just for your husband or your boyfriend. And I thought that like being in that kind of community was really good to unlearn that stuff, as well as have people that you can talk to about stuff within your relationships. Because like, how am I supposed to know that like XYZ that my boyfriend at the time did was not normal? Because we weren't allowed to talk about it. Like, that was too scandalous, too taboo. But then by having friends who were open about it, it was like really good for self-discovery and like unlearning bad stuff and becoming like a better person and better with relationships.
That's great. And like the first time, like at the party, you saw sex happening that did not involve you, were you just like, all right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
It's
it?
just like, cool. Good for you.
Okay. I feel like I was like a little flabbergasted. I was just kind of like, oh my God, sex all around me. I'm not having any of it, but sex all around me. Is Hacienda where you met your ex?
It was not. I met him through work
Okay.
when I was like 20.
Wait, how long were you? Wait, because I forget how. Wait, how long were you with this man?
I had known him for 7 years, and it was like an on and off kind of very complicated relationship. But it was also one of those relationships where it was like, it sounds super fucking cheesy, but like love at first sight. And of course, he's a dumbass, and he was like, I'm not going to ever admit that because that's so dumb. And then, of course, we all knew. Like, I knew, he knew, his mom knew. Like, everyone knew, including him. Then finally he admitted it.
That
That it was
you.
also a love at first sight thing.
Okay. But wait, but how long ago are we talking? Like, from when did y'all like?
We met when I was 20 through...
Yeah, I don't know how old you are, lady.
Oh, that was 9 years ago.
9 years ago.
I think it was right after I moved to New York.
Okay. And were y'all non-monogamous?
We never like formally did a relationship because of his work. He wasn't in the United States most of the time.
Okay.
And so it was kind of just, I wasn't going to, despite the fact that I was like super in love with him and he's the only person I've ever been in love with.
I
was like,
lock it down.
I had stuff to work through on my own. And like, very obviously now he had shit to work through. But I straight up was like, I tried to make it work a couple times, but then it was like, I don't know why I'm trying to make this work in this moment when like his job location placement is so unstable. Like, he'd be gone in...
Why get into some sort of commitment with someone who's not
why
like,
would I want to be in a
around?
commitment with somebody who is going to be gone for 9 to 10 months of the year?
So y'all were like pseudo seeing each other, but then you were free to do your thing outside.
Yeah,
of that.
I also...
You could go have a
would
threesome
have
with your
done-
friend and
Yeah.
and your friend's man.
I would have tried to do a monogamous thing, but because he was a dumbass and like wouldn't admit that it was a mutual like love thing.
Love thing.
I at one point was like, I'm not waiting for you to get your head out of your butthole. Like, I'm gonna date other people.
Okay.
And of course he'd get mad about that.
So he wanted to be like settle down in monogamous long distance. Was that like his hope? And you were just having brains and saying no way.
I think he was on the same page with like
So what, he
knowing
wants
that
neither
if
of
we
y'all
were
to
to
fuck
get
anybody?
I don't know. I'm sure he was fucking other people. Like, I would hope that he was, like, because I wasn't fucking him at that time. Like, you're in another country for 10 months. Like, go do things.
Go support the local sex work economy, something.
Yeah, just go have flings. I don't give a shit.
But you were saying that you think you're both on the same page, where you're both scared of.
I think we both, because I definitely knew it, and I get the vibe that that's what his thought was, that, and so did our mutual friends. We're like, yeah, I think everyone knows that if you date, you're going to get married, and that's the end of that.
How would you describe that, like love at first sight feeling?
I'd always thought it was like a fake thing. And then I met him and I was like, oh, it's not a fake thing. This is disgusting. And then tried to like be nonchalant about it. But I'm not good at being discreet, but also he's not good at being discreet.
Yeah, but like describe the feeling. Like you're hit with it.
It was a like sudden overwhelming urge to get my shit together because I knew that that's what was going to probably happen. Like with the if we dated, we're getting married kind of thing.
And so you thought like, I have to get my shit. I need to prepare for when we
Yeah, I
get
was like,
married.
I want to get my
like,
shit together because I don't want to like wreck this relationship because I didn't have my shit together.
A relationship is not even a relationship yet, but you already know.
But
I know
was
what
like,
I know what I want it to be, and I got to get ready for it.
Yeah, I was like, I know that if I date this person, we're gonna get married. He knows it. Like everyone freaking knows it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I met his cousin, and his cousin was like, "Ah, yes, that person." I was like, "Oh no." It was a complicated relationship.
Okay.
He admitted finally, like he got his head out of his butt on February 28th, 2020. We went into COVID lockdowns March 10th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So he finally got his head out of his butt February 28th, 2020. I went out with him that weekend and talked about it. I was also kind of in a relationship at the time. So it's the second relationship that he home wrecked, but I was a willing participant in that one.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, we'll talk about it. Like, it could work. And then COVID was like, LOL, no, fuck you.
And
then none of our shit was together because, like, COVID, I lost my job. I worked in the arts. I got another job shortly after, which was super fortunate. But he lost his job because it was in hospitality, essentially. And so both of us kind of got fucked over. And I went back to well, now we know for sure that this person has their head out of their butthole, but this is not a good time. Like the timing was never right, if that makes sense.
But you're together. Like you're finally physically
We had
together.
a conversation about it.
But you were living together.
No.
I thought you said you went to lockdown together.
We went into lockdown just in New York City.
Oh, okay.
He lived in Jersey.
Okay.
So it was not like I could just walk over there to see him.
Okay.
It was like a 2.5 hour commute on the train.
And why aren't you all together now?
Oh, he died. He home wrecked 3 relationships for me and then died because the absolute audacity. But is that not the audacity?
You you're pretty nonchalant. Like you have a good sense of humor about it.
I mean, if I died, I would want him to make jokes about it. Looking back, there were no red flags. It was just like completely seemed fine. Everything was going great. Had just gotten a new job, just got a new car, just got a new apartment, and then was at a party with his friends, went home and killed himself with no red flags. So we still don't know. Like his family has theories about stuff.
Sure.
And it kind of seems like they're on track with the theories, but like nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't an accident. So
how'd you find out?
I found out because somebody who was one of our mutual friends posted on Facebook.
You found out from Facebook?
Well, I couldn't find out from his mom because the only time I had met his mom was she walked in on us hooking up. And I was like, I'm never going to show my face here again.
Yeah, you don't want to go from like seeing her titties to saying my son's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You need a buffer event in between.
Yeah, it was super awkward. I mean,
but still,
he was 30 years old and I was an adult and I'm hot, so she should be happy for him.
But this is like a person you were going to, eventually do the marry thing with.
I would hope so, yeah. Like,
it seemed like that's where y'all were going.
Like we had the conversation about how it was mutually love at first sight and that like we want to try to do the marry thing and like have kids, which honestly, like the silver lining is I don't want kids. Fuck them kids.
Okay. But you find out on Facebook.
Found out on Facebook because someone had tagged him being like, oh, I can't believe that this happened. Like, fly high, man. And I was like, what the fuck? And then had to find out through other people, like, where the funeral was so I could go. And then his mom at the funeral was like, we are glad you came. We didn't know how to contact you. Yeah. So
you said what you say, you see it and you go like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, did you think it was real? Did you think it was like a joke? Like,
I was really confused at first, but then like it did kind of make sense. Like there were no red flags, but of course the second I heard about that he had passed away, like I knew exactly what had happened. Mm-hmm. Like it was just intuition is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what happened.
And that was how long ago now?
September 2021.
Yeah.
So almost 3 years? 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years.
And I know you've been doing a lot of, journey and figuring shit out since then.
Yeah, it's been an adventure.
What was like the immediate aftermath for you like?
It was shitty.
It was?
Oh my god,
It
I
was
know,
bad?
we're talking history.
Wow.
Funnily enough, and this is like
Shitty, that's-
hindsight, like grief is
when I
weird. I was super upset because he had invited me to go with him to Turks and Caicos for his birthday in January.
I remember this.
And then he died in September, and I was like, well, fuck. Like, you ruined our vacation. And of course, I had already taken time off work, but I couldn't afford to go by myself without like his perks and stuff.
Well, didn't y'all have another? Was it a trip? Was it Bali or something like that?
Yeah, we had also talked about going to Bali for my birthday the following year, which I then
that
did
was
because
last-
he's
that was
not
last
going to
year, right?
ruin that too.
Well, yeah, he can't die twice.
Like
I'm sure if
I'm
he
going to
could-
Bali.
I'm sure if he could, he'd fuck with you and do it twice. But
I mean, he had the
not
audacity to
able.
home wreck 3 relationships.
Yeah, he's like, right before I make sure you can't have the relationship with me. I'll make sure you don't get to have it with them either.
Right?
I know that you've been very understandably having your struggles with mental health around this because, like, fucking duh, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fucking duh.
What has that journey been like? What are some of the plot points of that for you? Like, you just got back from, like, a thing, still working on that, right? Like,
Yeah, like a lot of hiding my house, not doing anything. I started. I'm trying to think of the timeline.
I'm going to ask you to eat the mic
Oopsie.
more so I can really
Okay.
capture the depression. Thank you.
Can't capture depression on a microphone.
You think not? Pff, lady. Done 500. I captured a squirt on microphone once, so anything's possible.
Oh, I'm so glad I know that.
I was able, I could circle the wavelength on the editing software. I was like, that's what a squirt looks like.
But a lot of hiding my house. I started it was also again another like COVID lockdown. So hiding my house was like easy, and I think I needed the alone time anyway. But I started playing online games, so I had like a social thing going on, and ended up meeting a bunch of my really close friends through that.
Did you not have social stuff going on IRL?
I already got long COVID, like going to a funeral with like 200 people.
And it's like, oh man, is John trying to bring us all down? He's bring us all together.
Right? I was
just
like,
so we
you
can all-
trying to fucking take me out too with you having a huge ass funeral because you were a lovely, wonderful human and all these people came?
babe, because now we can finally be together up in the
Like,
clouds.
oh, now you can't date other people.
Yeah, because you're gonna be stuck up here in the clouds with me. That's
I mean, ironically, we had like a very morbid bet going on who was going to die first. And he was like, it's obviously you.
well. That's what
and
I
I
was
was
getting.
like,
That's what I
that's
remember
so
you telling
mean.
me.
You can't say that. And he's like, but you have no will to live and you drive a moped in New York City. I was like, you know what? I can't argue with that. Like,
Well, yeah, no, I think that's what I was referencing earlier. Where it's like you told me there was some sort of like joke or a thing.
Oh,
about
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. We
That's
had
what it
a-
was. Yeah,
like really fucked up joke about who's going to die first. And he was like, it's you. You have no will to live. You drive a moped in New York City.
Did you think he was going to die first, or you
And-
die first?
I honestly also said it was me, but I was like, it's mean that you're saying that it's me. Like, I can say that, but you can't say that. Then to add on top of it, he's like, you also just have no chill. And like, I'm still convinced I'll get murdered by some random dude that was catcalling me.
Okay.
Because I just don't, like, fuck out of here.
2022, you're back from Bahamas. You're doing some online gaming. Where's your head at in 2022?
I've super focused on work mostly.
I would see at the parties. You'd be there.
Yeah, I started working there
Yeah.
at that time, like right after he had passed away. I started working there,
Yeah.
or like working.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, if I pack my schedule full of things, like if I'm doing work constantly, If I'm trying to do like creative stuff constantly, if I'm at my day job all the time, I can't like sink into like the depression tunnel, not a tunnel.
Hole, pit.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember the first play party you were at? And again, I say at, like, again, you weren't, I don't think you were like there slutting it up or nothing. I mean, not that there's anything wrong if you were. I just don't think that's what your MO was. But like, do you remember the first time you were like at that space surrounded by a bunch of like couples and thruples and people fucking around? Do you remember the first party after he passed that you went to?
I think it was a brunch and I was working at it.
Okay.
And so like working there at the time was super helpful because of like I did have friends there.
Okay.
And so I was like working so I could like keep my head in like work mode, but then I still had friends there so I could still socialize.
Mm-hmm. Was it weird to see all these other like happy couples together?
Not really, because I'd been around for so long at that point. I think 2 years at that point. And so that was just like, I'm so desensitized to it that I was like, yeah, whatever. But it was nice to like be like simultaneously in a social situation and also be able to be in like work mode.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, you just kind of did that all year.
Yeah, I did that for like a year. I didn't participate in the parties for like, I think over a year.
Mm-hmm. And that kept you out of the pit?
Yeah, because it was able to like be in a social place and then be focused on work. And
how long did that last? Like you could keep yourself out of it?
A pretty decent amount of time. But then of course I get too busy and then I get stressed out from being too busy and then that causes like a different mental breakdown.
Yeah. But at least you're not having a mental breakdown about dead fiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like could have mental breakdown about a lot of things, but mental breakdown in my stupid, dumb, grieving mind was like, oh, mental breakdown about working 80 hours a week is better. And of course, it's not. It's still a mental breakdown, but like it's an easier thing to fix.
Yeah, and it's not, and you get to continue to delay fixing and dealing with John.
Yeah.
When did you finally? I mean, I guess I should first technically ask, like, have you dealt with John?
I've been in therapy for like 15 years.
That was not an answer to my question. That was the answer to how long. I'm sorry. Were you preparing for like 13 years for him to die?
Already in therapy, working through childhood trauma.
Right. But I'm saying like you were.
So I was already like prepared with the therapist, like on deck to work through stuff.
Right. But as we just acknowledged, like you were distracting yourself with different types of things to be stressed about or have a breakdown about, so you don't have to deal with John. At some point, I assume you've had to more focus on that, or do you feel like you've not had that breakdown yet?
I definitely am choking on my energy drink. We definitely had the breakdown about it. Like,
it's 2022. Stay busy.
Yeah.
We're not playing at the parties. I assume you're not dating.
I started dating again in like early 2022, but not like seriously dating. Like, oh, if I want to have a life partner, I should maybe date somebody. But then, like, do I also want a life partner if it's not John? Which was a weird thing. And then I made some very questionable choices and got banned from Tinder. And, like...
You got banned from Tinder? Okay.
Yeah, I got banned from Tinder. Someone sent me something really mean, and I called them a fucking nerd. And apparently that's harassment.
But like, just a few months after he's gone, you were already like, well, I should get back out there?
It was not really like, oh, I'm trying to find like a replacement. It's more of like I should, which I think probably was not the best move because that was how you make bad choices. Mm-hmm. Like you can ask my best friend. She was very supportive of the bad choices I made in men, but then like hindsight or after, she was like, yeah, that was a bad choice.
Right. But what like, you said you weren't trying to replace him, but you were trying to
just get in the idea and like headspace that like I'd have to do that again. And it's a nightmare out there. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad without having, that on your plate at the moment.
Yeah, it was also just, it's bad. I'm going to be a spinster. I'm going to live alone with my cats.
That's a valid choice and option. I mean, what was the first date like?
We went to Barcade. I was pretty upfront with it because I was like, that would be like, even if I'm just trying to like casually meet people, not even like hook up, but just be like, I should date some people just so that it's like in the headspace that like we're gonna like have to do this again. Like I was super upfront with it.
Yeah.
But we went to Barcade and he had told me that he was a bartender there. And I was like, bet. Like, we love a good bartender.
Okay.
Turns out he was not a bartender there. Which is why we had to go to the other Barcade and not the one he worked at. And then he wouldn't pay because despite the fact that he asked me there and I had one like $4 happy hour beer, he wouldn't pay for it because he was worried about gold diggers.
How about my fiance just died, free beer? I don't know. You'd get at least 2 out of me for free just because someone died. That's
right.
He's worried about gold or whatever.
He thought he was rich from crypto.
Everyone thought they were rich from crypto in 2022. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
he was convinced he was rich from crypto.
Well, you did mention the being worried, like, will you find love like with John again earlier?
Yes.
And, where do you stand on that?
I don't know. I tried dating.
Okay.
It's a nightmare. Like, it's a nightmare on its own. And then you, like, add that into the equation, then it's, like, extra nightmare.
How so?
Because I feel like if I'm trying to date somebody seriously, I should probably be, like, full disclosure. I'm, like, kind of widowed. And then it's awkward because I'm 29. And kind of widowed. And I feel like it should be a more normal thing, honestly, because of COVID. But
Well, how did they react when you say?
a lot of ghosting. Although it also works because then if somebody's weird, I've already told them that I'm kind of widowed, but I don't say why. And if they end up being like a fucking creeper and like a psycho, I just will casually mention like, oh, there's an ongoing investigation. So like, I actually can't talk about it because like the police still have to interview me about my involvement and just be like, oh yeah, maybe I killed him. Which I didn't, but like creepy Michael from Hinge doesn't need to know that.
I mean, do you feel ready to date again?
I tried it a little bit.
No, I didn't.
Still a nightmare.
No, like emotionally. Like, do you just feel like you should even be doing that now?
In this current moment, like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked through it enough where I could, like, have a healthy relationship and, like, I've kind of tried. But it's just a nightmare.
And what else? How else is it a nightmare?
I'm not willing, because I had John, I'm not willing to settle for someone who isn't going to, like, be a positive addition and a bonus. Like, if they can't make me happier than I currently am, I don't want it. It's like, why would I downgrade my level of happiness and quality of life for a man
who isn't as good as John?
Yeah. Like, if they can't bring a positive addition, then I'm not interested.
And isn't it a little sad that like the passing of your ex has to like give that perspective? Because like, shouldn't everyone have that POV? Shouldn't everyone go, what are you going to offer me I can't offer myself? So that's her attitude.
Exactly. That's the attitude I have.
Yours is like, I'm all right now. What are you going to do that's going to improve it?
Yeah, that's the exact logic that I have. Like, I'm already, for all intents and purposes and all things considered, I'm living my best life. Mm-hmm. It's like, why would I downgrade for a guy who like maybe doesn't wash his butthole because he thinks it's gay?
Does that come up?
I have had men refuse to use my bathroom because it has a bidet, and that might be gay if they use the bidet.
But will they say they don't wash their buttholes like at home?
They have not said they don't wash their buttholes at home, but I'm like, if you're not willing to use the bidet that has warm water.
I mean, a bidet is just pleasant, and I'm not saying.
Like, why would I was like, I'm automatically suspect of men who refuse to use the bidet.
Okay. My only issue with the bidet is like, I don't know what, because the whole point is in the selling is they say, oh, and then you want to use toilet paper. I was like, yes, I do. I still have to dry my butthole. And so
use less toilet paper.
I don't know. It gets wet back there. It's like I gotta kind of use about the same. I'm just like making it wet instead of brown.
No, you use less toilet paper.
What I need is like I need a hand towel that's just for the pat.
You just pat, yeah.
Yeah, but
uses less toilet paper.
Toilet paper is not. Maybe you got the extra thick stuff. Maybe I'm just poor, but like I
was always taught to splurge on your mattress and on your toilet paper.
Right. So all I'm saying is like I'm not actually saving toilet paper. I'm using the same amount of toilet paper to either wipe or to dry, unless I could have like a hand towel for it. That does not excuse these men who don't want to wash their buttholes at all. But I just understand if they don't want to use the bidet specifically.
It's like if they won't even try the bidet.
And I say this as a fan of a bidet. I'm just saying.
I love my bidet.
But what I'm getting at is everyone should have this attitude of like you need to be a value add whether or not a fiance home wrecks 3 relationships and then dies.
Yeah. Audacity.
Right. Like what prevented you from like having that like attitude beforehand? I mean, it sounds like you had John, he was a value add, and
yeah,
it's like I'm nervous about, and so because like part of the reason I want to talk to you was just about like the idea of like love lost from different things. So like last week's episode with Elle was a lot about like heartbreak and breaking up and mistreatment and such. And, yours is obviously in your circumstances. And I think about like with my breakup where like I had this person who I feel like I have loved the most in my entire life. I haven't loved anyone like that so precisely. And so it's kind of like, I'm nervous about dating again. And everyone's being compared to that. Like, even if I have a connection, is the connection as strong as with Wallet No Lady? Maybe so I'm a little nervous about that. And I'm curious about your experience of comparing dudes you try to date now to John.
Definitely a little bit of the comparing. But I'm also like, I know I cannot replace this person. Like, and I'm not even trying to find someone who's like the same person. Like, there's certain qualities that I would look for, but I'm not looking for like a carbon copy. Mm. But then there's still the little bit of like comparing and opposed to like a normal breakup. Like most breakups, I feel like go one of two ways. Like you either just grow apart and it's a healthy breakup because you're just like, oh, we've grown apart. Like we're mature adults. We know that it's not going to be healthy if we don't break up. Like, and now it'll just get toxic. Mm. And so you break up before the toxic. Or you break up because it's toxic and then it's messy because they like treated you like shit or something.
Right.
But in both of those cases, I feel like there's closure, which then, like, I would love if there was like closure, but there's not going to be.
Yeah.
Just because, like, unless I get a Ouija board and be like, hey, are you mad that I'm dating other people now? But also, if he didn't want me to date other people, he shouldn't have died.
Yes, so. I agree. What has helped the most in the recovery from his death?
My cats.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know where the other one is, but the one that's been coming in is kind of a dick.
Okay, what's like the second most helpful thing? I'm just trying to think of the allergic folk in the crowd.
Everyone likes cats. Honestly, therapy.
Okay.
Because it's honestly my poor therapist though. Like I don't know how she knows how to deal with stuff, and some of the stuff that like I've been with her on like Zoom calls with is like arguably hilarious. Like one day I couldn't find my like work headset, and so we were on a Zoom video call and I couldn't find the work headset, and so I was super embarrassed because I was wearing my gaming headset which lit up and had cat ears on it
as you talked about. John,
it would like light up rainbow, and I'm like on this therapy Zoom call like crying hysterically. But I was a kitty cat. And I was like, honestly, props to my therapist for not laughing because it's just absurd.
That sounds like something that like a lot of like horny, lonely boys would tip a lot for on Twitch. You crying with your light up cat ears.
I'm gonna steal that idea.
Just throw me a tip at some point. And I guess for the next guy who becomes a value add, who you decide you want to date in a more serious manner, what do you think the biggest obstacle he or she, I forgot, you're very, very, I see your hair, you're very queer, we know, I see you.
Yeah.
Don't worry. The next person, like you said, you get into a serious relationship with, what do you think is the biggest obstacle they're gonna face?
I think needing to understand that I'm always going to love John, and that doesn't mean that I don't love them also. Although I feel like it's a little bit easier because he's dead, and so it's not like I can just go oh, my ex is back, bye.
Unless it's really, really creepy way you do it.
Yeah, I feel like
unless you dig them up,
if that happens, that's a bigger concern. But
and what's the biggest way that a partner in the future can support you when you're having rough times remembering John?
I think just not being insecure, because I can see how people would feel insecure about, I always will love this person, even though I love you also. Which polyamory is all about that.
You're saying they need to be able to be an emotional throuple with you, them, and John.
Not necessarily an emotional throuple, but just understanding that was a thing and that it's always going to be a thing. But that they don't necessarily need to be insecure about it because, like I said, if I am leaving them for John, something else is going on here that's a bigger problem.
It's you're the one here and alive right now. So have some security in that. But really all they got to do is remember this isn't about you right now. This is about I'm hurting and maybe just take care of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to bring up also, yes, I wondered if poly people can be better at that because they are already used to not being insecure about love being spread around.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of them are still really insecure about love being spread around, but
yeah, fair enough.
I think that's a relatively normal thing that everyone experiences regardless of monogamy or polyamory.
Is there anyone in the cards right now?
I have an FWB.
Oh, good for you. Oh, is this the same one that we maybe have discussed at maybe at your birthday thing when I saw you at your birthday, the birthday hacienda? I think you had said you were you had been plotting to fuck somebody, and I think you accomplished it. Would this be the same one?
Different person. I had been
Lee.
Well, the one we were talking about, I would love to also have to be with them because they're great. But it was somebody who I had been trying to hook up with for years, because they're just a lovely person. And a friend of mine used to date them, and then they broke up completely amicably. And she was like, "Hey, you need to at minimum fuck this person."
Okay.
She's like, "It's a great time. You gotta do it." And he was down, I was down. The cards just never aligned.
And then, but now they have.
And then at one point we were just well, obviously we are both here. I'm on a 45-minute break. We should maybe go somewhere.
And was it as good as your friend recommended?
Yes, it was 10 out of 10.
Beautiful. Love that for you.
Yeah, I have a different FWB.
Okay.
Who is lovely. He's a great person.
Okay. Good at taking care of you?
I mean, in the sexy way.
Okay. Not someone you're gonna date though.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I enjoy them as a person. I would like to be their friend, and I like doing the FWB things with them. But I don't know if I would
talking about sex, just in case anybody didn't know. Okay.
I know. I was
the FWB thing.
The FWB thing.
Kind of like the love thing.
Then I was I don't know if I would
and John's doing the
them.
dead thing. Let's just add. We're doing the podcast thing right
exactly,
now.
the podcasting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do the dating thing with them to stay on trend.
Gotcha.
But not because I don't like them as a person.
Well, at least they're dicking you down just nicely for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So good for you on that.
Yeah.
Lee, how you feel?
Good.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll end with, would you ever want to forget I went down on you again? Yes or no?
feel like I can't answer that because I feel like it's incriminating.
The best place to discuss your thoughts on this week's show is in the episode discussion channel in the Champagne Room. The Champagne Room is our super free, super fun, super sex positive Discord server, and we are nearly 800 members strong. There's a link to it in the schnotes, or you can visit manwhorepod.com/Discord. You can always email me your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your hopes and your prayers, but only if you send your hopes and prayers along with like what your solution for the, gun violence epidemic is to manwhorepod@gmail.com. And if you're in the market for some books, oh, we love some books, right? Some physical paper books of a hard or flaccid nature. Get affordably priced books from an independent bookstore at bookshop.org. And when you purchase through my bookshop.org link, you shop the site like normal, and when you make purchases, Billy gets a little kickback. You support an independent bookstore and an independent podcaster, all in the same convenient purchase. At bookshop.org/shop/Billy, or click the link in the schnotes. And of course, the best way to support me is still through Patreon, especially if you want to receive access to over 300 bonus episodes, an invite to our monthly porn watching experience, Hot Movie Night, on Discord, behind the scenes content and more, and even access to our slutty group chat, The Peep Show. Become a member today, support the pod you love, I hope, at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Membership starts at really just $2 a month. But if you hate Patreon, my Venmo, my Cash App, all the ways to support the show are always in the show notes, as well as my upcoming stand-up comedy dates and really anything you need. Okay. Next week, we are not talking to one of my exes. We're just talking to someone I wish was one. They are, oh my God, a babe. But you'll just have to wait till next week to hear who that is. Until then, stay slutty. Hello, I'm Billy Presida, host of the Man Whore Podcast. Having put my most intimate stories of love and glory holes on the internet since the age of 24, I understand the importance of entertaining sex-positive conversations. Since 2014, the Man Whore Podcast has shared free weekly content inspiring hundreds of thousands of sluts around the world to communicate better and come harder. With your contribution, One Whore plans to survive capitalism in 2024 while making you laugh and think and ask your partner for an open relationship. I hope I can count on you to support this vital, important, life-changing work on Patreon. We don't have tote bags, but we do have a 53-minute bonus episode of people having oral sex. Become an official fan whore today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Thank you.